My son and I are soon embarking on an opulent new chapter of our lives overseas, all thanks to his impressive $10 million. Once we're gone and you're divorced, you'll find it hard to fend for yourself. Curious about our destination? Well, you'll have to humble yourself, kneel, and maybe even grovel at my feet before I consider telling you more. What are you talking about? I'm lost. I had absolutely no clue what my mother-in-law was implying. The news of their plans to move abroad and the substantial savings came as a complete surprise to me. It's simple. With my son's $10 million, we're set to start a glamorous life in a foreign land, just the two of us, she continued. But why would my husband leave, and what's with the sudden mention of $10 million? If you're that desperate to know, get on your knees, beg, and maybe I'll enlighten you. Why this hostility? Where is my husband? We're quite content, enjoying the lavish lifestyle that my son's fortune affords, she remarked dismissively. It was clear I was no longer needed. Her words stunned me. What did she mean that my husband had suddenly acquired $10 million and was living a luxurious life abroad? Why was she acting as though I was an outsider? Overwhelmed with anger and confusion, I knew I needed to remain composed and uncover the truth. How did my husband come into such a large sum of money? Could there be more to this $10 million? I manage a prominent IT company where I met my husband. His upbeat and lively nature won me over, and eventually we married. Initially, his parents were very welcoming, and years later, we had a daughter, now 12. Having experienced a tough childhood and strained relationship with my parents, I was resolved to provide my daughter with all the love and support she needed, juggling both my career and home life. However, things took a turn when my husband was assigned to a project in Florida, requiring him to move there alone. Managing everything single-handedly with our daughter was daunting. It's going to be challenging handling work, home, and our daughter alone, I expressed to him. Perhaps it might be wise to ask my mother to help, he suggested, considering the load I would have to bear. He suggested it with some hesitation, but I saw it as a sensible approach to our current predicament. Thus, we decided to invite my mother-in-law to move in with us to offer some assistance. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming back?" my daughter inquired one day. "He's going to be in Florida for a while, but don't worry, Grandma is coming to stay with us," I reassured her. With that, my mother-in-law joined our household. Little did I realize that this decision would soon become one of my greatest regrets. "You're working late again today, huh?" Women who neglect their families. These were the kind of biting remarks I'd often return home to. "I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter," I would retort, though she seemed perpetually unimpressed. "When I was young, family was everything. I never even considered working outside the home," she would often reminisce nostalgically. Then, on a day when my daughter received excellent grades, she claimed, "It's all thanks to me. What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around." Despite her involvement being limited to simple homework tasks, I was the one teaching my daughter most subjects. Whenever I made even a minor mistake in cooking, she would criticize me. "How did you and my son ever manage before with such poor cooking skills?" "I'm doing my best and everyone has their style," I argued, feeling my patience growing thin. "She's not doing her chores," she would complain to my husband. "Mom, she's working too. Please understand." My husband would defend me during their conversations. However, with my husband away and my mother-in-law at home, tensions escalated, and I felt increasingly isolated. One evening, I decided to call my husband to discuss everything. "Oh, are you okay right now?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm good. What's up? It's kind of late here, but your mom laid into me about the house chores and it's starting to get to me," I confessed. "I'm sorry, Mom's always been sharp-toned, but maybe there's something to what she's saying. Still, don't let it bother you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace," he advised, trying to provide some reassurance with his words. Despite the support, the daily struggles with my mother-in-law continued to challenge my resolve. Trying to maintain our daily routine became increasingly difficult with my husband away. The constant pressure from my mother-in-law was exhausting, and I found myself counting the days until his return. Initially, memories of happier times with him helped me cope, but as the weeks dragged on, her critical behavior grew unbearable. She nitpicked everything I did from dawn until dusk. One evening, when I prepared my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly commented, "This tastes terrible. Who would eat this?" If I ever paused for a brief break, she would scold me, "How can a woman who can't handle household chores justify taking a break?" While my husband would usually shrug off my minor mistakes with a laugh, in front of my mother-in-law, I felt pressured to be flawless. Her harsh treatment, I suspect, stemmed from her deep affection for her son and her reluctance to accept that he had chosen to marry me and live away from her. This challenging situation strengthened my resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after indulging in a small shopping spree at a local mall to uplift my spirits, I returned home to find her fuming at the entrance. "How could you go out for fun while your husband isn't home? What about the household chores?" She confronted me furiously. "I thought I needed a little break," I responded, trying to keep my calm in a tense situation. "A break? All this trouble is because of your incompetence," she retorted. After that harsh exchange, I desperately awaited a call from my husband, hoping his voice would comfort me. However, the news he shared was anything but comforting. "I've got some bad news," he began. "My work in Florida isn't going well. I got into gambling. I was in a tough financial spot and had accumulated quite a bit of debt." My husband confessed over the phone. "Are you serious? Gambling in debt? This is completely unexpected. What about our future and our daughter?" I replied, shocked and worried. "I'm sorry, I feel stuck right now, but trust me, I'll figure something out," he pleaded. "How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe?" I asked, seeking clarity. "I'm working on a solution," was all he could manage. I had always seen my husband as a dependable and sincere man. He never missed our dates, and even after we moved in together, he always came straight home from work, showing appreciation for everything I did around the house. His honesty and sincerity were what made me fall in love with him. However, now, with him far away, and under the constant barrage of my mother-in-law's criticisms, my life felt increasingly unbearable. "I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son," my mother-in-law would often sneer, her harsh words cutting deep. With my husband continuing his work away from home, the sting of his gambling debts, and the relentless criticism from my mother-in-law, my despair grew. One night, feeling utterly overwhelmed, I found myself crying on a park bench, alone. Then, one evening during dinner, my mother-in-law unearthed a secret from my past and used it to taunt me further. "So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place. How did you find out about that?" I asked, stunned. "I was telling someone about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that job," she jeered. Before I married my husband struggling for money, I had indeed worked at a nightclub, a secret I thought he didn't know. I was speechless. I never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this about my past, let alone use it against me. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild," she spat venomously, hinting that I might be kicked out. My despair deepened as everything I had built with my husband, all my efforts and the future I had hoped for, seemed to crumble under her harsh words. Meanwhile, my husband's communication became increasingly scarce, leaving me to face the mounting challenges alone. Feeling increasingly doubtful and suspected by those closest to me, I found myself alone one night, reflecting deeply on my life, the journey of meeting my husband, our marriage, our current turmoil, and the relentless blame and accusations from my mother-in-law. It all felt too overwhelming. I can't take it anymore, I whispered to myself. Driven by despair, I stepped out into the quiet, starless night, the weight of my mother-in-law's critical words about my past and my current situation echoing in my mind. I found solace on a park bench, gazing up at the sky, which seemed as dark and empty as I felt inside. Out of the quiet, a familiar voice approached. "Mom, why are you here?" It was my daughter who sat beside me and took my hand. "Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at your IT job and you've overcome so much. You're strong." "Thank you, but maybe Grandma is right," I sighed. "Mom, Grandma is stuck in the past. In today's world, any job you've done should make you proud. I'm proud that you worked at a nightclub." "Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us, no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you," she reassured me, her words deeply touching my heart. Tears welled up in my eyes as she continued. "Mom, you're doing such a great job in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always support you no matter what Grandma says." Gratitude flooded my heart. Her unwavering support gave me renewed strength and hope that we could face anything together. Later, back in my husband's study, I took a deep breath before diving into a pile of paperwork. I meticulously went through each document, trying to unravel the mysteries of his finances: bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Gradually, the details of my husband's financial situation began to reveal themselves. Why did this happen? I wondered, discovering several receipts detailing his gambling activities, horse racing, slot machines, and casino visits. The realization of how much money my husband had squandered was heartbreaking. Turning on his PC, I guessed that the reverse version of his birthday was the password to access his email. Inside, I found numerous collection emails from financial institutions and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Additionally, his inbox was flooded with promotional emails from gambling websites. I decided to tally the total amount my husband had spent on gambling. The staggering result was $10 million, far exceeding what I had anticipated. Seeing that figure, a moment of panic set in. Realizing the urgency of the situation, I swiftly began to strategize on securing our financial stability. This included tapping into my personal savings, estimating the proceeds from selling our high-end electronics and luxury items, and carefully planning our budget based on my salary. Every little detail was crucial in these critical moments. As I carried on with my investigation, I contacted various financial institutions daily to fully grasp the extent of my husband's debts. I also obtained credit reports in his name. A few days later, I formulated a plan. I began laying the groundwork to establish a life independent of my husband and mother-in-law, while also figuring out a strategy to manage his debts. Using my expertise in the IT industry, I decided to pursue freelance projects. I quickly put together a portfolio and signed up on a freelance job platform. Shortly after, I received my first project request from a client. This will help cover some of our living expenses, I thought, grateful for the opportunity. While managing my daily work, I meticulously reviewed our household finances. I canceled unnecessary subscriptions, cut back on wasteful spending, and researched budget-friendly recipes to reduce our food expenses. With insights from local moms, I organized a community yard sale, successfully selling branded items and extra electronics for a decent sum. As my freelance work gained momentum over the following weeks, I began to feel more secure about our financial future. By then, my bank account held enough to cover our essential living expenses. When I returned home one day, I noticed all of my mother-in-law's belongings were gone. At the same time, my phone rang. It was her. "Oh, are you already home? Did you notice our stuff is gone?" Her voice came through the phone. "What are you trying to say?" I asked cautiously. "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $10 million. Once you divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." she declared arrogantly. I couldn't help but chuckle. That $10 million is a debt. Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt, she retorted confidently. You might not believe it, but it's the truth, I replied, armed with the facts from my investigation. Amid the late-night silence of our home, I sat surrounded by the harsh reality revealed in my husband's study. Bank transactions, credit card statements, and contracts littered the desk, evidence of his gambling debts. His computer screen displayed a relentless collection of emails and desperate messages from friends seeking repayment. Promotional emails from gambling websites peppered his inbox. If you don't believe me, why not check for yourself? I told my mother-in-law over the phone despite her protests of disbelief. You must be mistaken, she insisted. I'm looking right at it. Gambling debts from horse racing, slot machines, and casinos totaling a staggering $10 million. I've just emailed you the proofs. Take a look when you can, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Silence followed, then a soft admission from her. I didn't know about this. He probably hid it to spare us the worry, but now I see. I've been grappling with how we'll manage this mountain of debt, thinking it was our joint burden to bear, but perhaps that's not the case, I said with a mix of sorrow and resolve. After a pause that seemed to stretch forever, she finally spoke. I'm at a loss for words. I truly didn't know, she murmured. We ended the call shortly after, and each of us left to ponder the revelations. Despite the upheaval caused by my husband and mother-in-law's initially planned escape to a lavish life abroad, a plan based on what turned out to be a misunderstood financial document, I decided to chart a new path forward for my daughter and me. I needed to protect our future, irrespective of the crumbling circumstances around us. Later, my husband reached out, his voice laden with regret. I'm so deeply sorry. I never meant for things to spiral out of control, he confessed. Our family is disintegrating because of your actions. How did you let it get this far? I demanded, my tone sharp with pent-up frustration and hurt. He sighed heavily. I got caught up in dreams of a different life with Mom, ignoring the realities facing us here. I didn't foresee the ruinous impact of my choices. Promises to your mother at the expense of our daughter's future? How could you prioritize anything over her well-being? I pressed, unable to mask the betrayal I felt. After a tense silence, he responded quietly, I thought I was doing what was best at the time. I see now how wrong I was. Do you still care about us? About your family? I asked, a part of me dreading the answer. I always will, but I understand if you can't see past this. Perhaps it's best if you and our daughter move on without me, he admitted, his voice breaking with emotion. As his sobs filled the silence that followed, I hung up the phone, a mix of sadness and determination settling in. It was clear I had to rebuild from the ground up, focusing solely on the well-being of my daughter and myself. The mistake of misreading a bill as a $10 million lottery win had set off this chain of events, but it was up to me to steer our course toward stability and recovery. As my mother-in-law plotted their supposed dream relocation overseas, she convinced my husband to accompany her, both blissfully unaware of her crucial mistake. It was a bill, not a lottery win, that fueled their plans. Believing that starting anew abroad might mitigate their financial troubles, my husband naively agreed to the move. When I discovered the truth behind their intentions and the financial blunder, my frustration and anger toward my husband intensified. Determined to protect myself and my daughter, I started consulting with a lawyer, preparing for divorce, and ensuring we could secure emotional distress compensation and child support. This marked a turning point. A new beginning was unfolding for my daughter and me, free from the disillusionment brought by my husband and his mother. During this transformative period, my daughter and I grew incredibly close. Her unwavering support in my decision to start anew became my pillar of strength. Each affirmation from her filled me with a mix of relief and gratitude, making the emotional turmoil we endured together seem worthwhile. Meanwhile, the reality of life overseas quickly soured for my mother-in-law and husband. Their ill-prepared venture was marred by financial instability and unexpected challenges, including a significant loss of their remaining funds to pickpockets, further complicated by language barriers. Ultimately, their lack of foresight led to deportation due to visa overstay issues. Back home, through careful negotiations led by my attorney, the terms of the divorce were finalized. We decided that my husband would pay a single lump sum for emotional distress compensation and child support. While this brought a formal end to our marriage, my lawyer suggested considering installment payments instead, citing my husband's continued financial irresponsibility and new debts owed to dubious lenders. As my mother-in-law faced dire consequences from their failed adventure, evicted and penniless after being robbed, she returned to the U.S. only to find herself homeless. I, on the other hand, felt a profound sense of peace as my daughter and I embraced our new chapter. Though not without its own set of challenges, being free from the past chaos allowed us to face the future with renewed optimism. Determined to build a joyful, stable life, my daughter stood by my side as a beacon of hope. Together, we navigated our way through the dark times, now looking forward to brighter days with a resilient spirit and hearts full of hope.